And we are live. Welcome to Tarrin It Up Tuesday, the hippest trip on YouTube. I'm so glad you can make it. Peace, love, soul, and all those good positive vibes. I am going to be one of my new favorite friends here that we had all kinds of electrical problems trying to get started. So sorry we're a little late, but I'm very excited to get Karen Swain. A lot of my viewers have been asking for her, and she apparently has a little fan club of my viewers that I think that's awesome that they're the ones that turned me on to her. So I've had a chance to watch some of her videos, and I'm excited because she is down under. She's, I think, a good 12 hours behind me or something. It's like early morning for her, and it's late night for us. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Karen. Let her tell you a little bit about her channel, how she got into all this. And then we're really going to dive into a lot of questions that I was teasing about near-death experiences, afterlife guides, deliberate creation, and manifesting. There's been a great deal of interest in the Mandela effect community about manifesting. Everybody's got like different ways to do it and different ideas. And I like to get all sides of this and how we should maybe try it. So without further ado, Karen, why don't you say hi and tell everybody about your channel and your webpage.
Hi, Tarrin. Thanks so much for having me on. Look, it's so exciting to be on your show. I mean, I looked at your YouTube. I mean, wow, look at all your subscribers. You've got a thumb, honey one. But listen, I just want to clear up a couple of things. We are in front of you guys. We're like 12 hours in your future. So I'm literally living in your future right now. I'm living tomorrow morning, not your morning, tomorrow morning. Actually, New Zealand is 2 hours ahead of us here in Sydney. So they're the first ones to greet the day. They're the first ones to do News Eve. And what do you want? So let me tell you a bit about me. The reason I put the capital A in my name is because I pronounce my name Karen. It was my mother's choice. She chose that. It's actually a Scandinavian way of pronouncing Karen. I'm South African, say Karen as well. And when you understand resonance and frequency, just the hard A actually is the sound of the heart chakra. Like if you say heart, it's actually a frequency which resonates with the heart chakra. So that's why I sort of make a point about saying it's Karen, not Karen, because I went to school with 5 Karens, right? So, yeah, I'm a teacher of deliberate creation, been on a long journey, you know, asking a million questions. As a young girl, I was full of questions, like just couldn't get enough answers. But what I found, I went to see a few healers and psychics and gurus, and they kept asking me to stop asking the questions, because when we're in that constant busy mind, like why, what's it all about? Why am I here? How does that work? What? We actually are not available to the answers. And when you calm that mind, people talk about it all the time, meditation, when you calm that mind, the answers flow in. And so I did that for a long time, and now I am a channel. I have a whole mob of people that talk to me, and I call them the mob. I give them a prettier name. I call them blissful beings, because it's just a prettier name, but the mob is pretty cool.
They're supposed to have a sense of humor on the other side. They probably like the mob.
They have the biggest day. I have had so many. They laugh at me more than anything, because like here we are down here falling around in these human bodies, you know, navigating a human body and a human mind. Like that's what we're navigating, right? And we are just doing the craziest things, and we are like the biggest to them, you know, like we're having this whole mob, and they're all here. Your mob's here, and everyone that's watching that, your mob's here as well. Like there's a whole team, a spiritual team of people that hang out with you and, you know, follow you around, so to speak. And they're all here watching this, because time on the other side, I think, as you know, is not linear. So they know before we know that this is going to happen, right? And they prepare to be here. And they just watch us, and some of the times it's like watching a little toddler that learns to walk. And when they sort of fall over and do funny things, you laugh. You don't laugh in a vicious way. You just think, that is so cute. That's what they do to us too. They laugh at us all the time. So they have a great sense of humor. Yeah, for sure.
How did you ever really get into this road? Because, you know, your channel kind of, by the way, if I forgot to mention, it's Accentuate The Positive Radio. So I guess I assume that you started out as a podcast or a radio show and then moved into YouTube. And give me a little bit about your background.
Yeah, you know, like just like when The Secret came out, when Rhonda Byrne, another Aussie, go the Aussies, brought out The Secret. Everyone knows The Secret, right? It just went viral. So she read some books that had teachings about deliberate creation, and all spiritual literature does. It all talks about our powers and our ability to create. And she was going through grief. Her father had died. And so she was really in that place where we hit those negative emotions, where we reach out. You know, Esther Hicks says we shoot rockets of desires, literally shoot out of us. And she was asking, like, why? Where have you gone? Why do I feel so bad? And her daughter gave her a book, and it had the law of attraction in it. And she thought, why do people not know more about this stuff? So she created The Secret. And like Rhonda, I felt the same. I watched that silly show on television called Frasier. And he's this psychiatrist that's on radio. And I just thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if there was someone on radio actually speaking about the law of attraction and teaching people about their powers of creation, instead of all this psychological, you know, garbage that goes on. And so I started on community radio. I started with a friend. She was a psychic, and people would ring in and she would give them a little psychic reading. She'd say, oh, I see you've just renovated your house, or your mother's died and is talking to me. And I would talk to them about the law of attraction. And that happened for about 6 months. And then she went off, her husband retired, and she went off sailing. And then I moved to a bigger station, a radio station here in Sydney, and I couldn't do talk back. And so I started interviewing people and getting people's journeys on radio. And it was only about 2 years ago that I actually worked up the courage to put my knob on camera and start YouTube because I was just like most people. I was just, you know, criticizing myself and saying, oh, you know, I don't want to put my face on camera. But you've got to get over yourself when you've got a mission to actually really contribute to the rest of the world, because it's really not about your lipstick and how nice your hair is and how old you are and how fat you are and all that sort of stuff that women worry about. Most women do, not all women. And you probably don't worry about that at all, Tarrin.
No, that's not true. Actually, I was very uncomfortable putting headshots of myself up, like, you know, the thumbnails you use to promote the show. I always put like the topic of the show. I didn't put myself. And when I was doing that, I really wasn't getting many hits. And some guy was just like, you have to put yourself, you know, you're branding yourself. You need to put your own face with everything. And I was really uncomfortable with that. I was like, man, I don't want to put my face all over everything. It's just so arrogant. And but I did it, and it worked. All of a sudden, my channel started exploding because people are like, oh, I know that dude. I've seen him before. I like his stuff. And they'll click it without really knowing who you are. So I started putting my face in everything, and it was very weird. I don't like, you know, just because I'm a male, that doesn't mean I want to do it either. But like you said, you kind of just got to buck up and let it go and get over it. It's still weird to me. So, you
know, putting yourself out there as any sort of presenter or teacher or any sort in the public eye at all, it is a personal growth workshop in itself, because it brings up all your ideas and beliefs about yourself. And then you have, in order to do what you want to do, because behind all your negative ideas about yourself or your limiting beliefs about yourself is a passion, is a mission, is a desire. And that's all of us. You know, we all have it. We've all come here with a plan. Our soul plans, you know, has a little plan before we come. And that's speaking to us all the time. And then what sits on top of that plan is these, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I haven't got any money, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not old enough, I'm not young enough, you know, like all this crap that's sort of circular head. And so when you really push yourself out there, you got to deal with all that stuff. And as you have, as I have, and then it's easy to let go, because your plan or your mission or your desire to want to contribute to people becomes stronger and louder than those negative ideas in your head. So that's what happened to me. I suspect that happened to you too, Tarrin.
Well, a lot of people that listen to the show, you know, I try to bring in a community, and I have a lot of other people that do podcasting or YouTube shows that hang out in the community, and they have their own shows, and I'm sure they could benefit from this, because it's still, you know, I've been on YouTube 7 years, and it's still uncomfortable. Wow. It's still not, you know, I'm still like, because some days YouTube can definitely beat you down. You got to surround yourself with good people to yank you back to the nice, happy, positive place, you know. And I
why
think
does
it's
it? Yeah,
important.
is it the and that's another lesson. Is it the people that make comment like negative comments?
Yeah, in America we call them trolls. The trolls will yank
Trolls.
you down and just negatives. You know, I've gotten a point where my life where I'm trying to take anything negative coming in and spit back positive. You know, like just the more negative they get, the more positive I'm going to get, kind of thing. And it just
Yeah.
comes with being in public. You know, I'm not used to it still, but I'm getting a lot better with it. And that is just the path I think we've chosen. Is there is that. You don't get a lot of that in your world?
I actually don't get a lot of it. I get a little bit of it. The one comment, I've had probably about half a dozen comments that say, let the person speak, stop interrupting with your teachings. and I get that. You know, I used to scream like that at Oprah when she was like, let the person speak, stop interrupting with your teachings. But so I'm in good company, right? Me and Oprah. Anyway, but yeah, you know, the reason I do this show is not really to interview people. It's not really to showcase people and who, like, their modality or what it's really to share their story and share that wisdom from the story. And I hear something that I want to expand on. I interrupt them and I say, like, let's talk about that. Or I'll throw in one of my stories. And then as I throw in one of my stories, they go, oh yeah, I remember when that happened to me. And then they expand on it. So it's actually a great interviewing style to share of yourself while you're talking to someone. It becomes a conversation. It's not an interview like we're doing, right? So
well, I feel, yeah, if you watch my show enough, you'll see that we start off as a little formal interview, but by 10-20 minutes into it, we're friends, and the people watching it are basically just watching two friends talk, you know. And
yeah, totally.
And sometimes friends cut each other off if they have something really insightful they gotta say, and that happens, you know. Hey, wait, I gotta say this before I forget. And
but
that
I want to
happens.
go back to, I'm going to do it now. I'm cutting you off. I want to go back to what you said. I want to go back to what you said, because this is so important for anyone that, you know, when you put yourself out there in the public eye, you're going to get criticism. But for anyone that feels criticized by their family, by their friends, by their peers, but, you know, criticism from somebody else or judgment, let's talk about judgment, is really not about who you are. It's only about what the person believes about themselves. And sometimes I get a lot of religious people that say, you know, you're going to go to hell, and they try and save my soul because I'm not talking about Jesus, although Jesus is one of my mob, you know, he's here. And but I just feel sorry for them, because they're not actually talking about me. They're talking about the pain in their own heart. Or, you know, any troll is really speaking from their own pain and their own fear. And so rather than being offended by what they say, you can really feel compassion for that person that's hurting so much. If they feel the need to have to get on there and type and then be anonymous too, you know, they're not going to put their name or their photograph up. They're just going to criticize and judge people who are putting themselves out there. You've just got to feel compassion for these people, because they're hurting. And sometimes I write really beautiful, loving notes to these religious people that say, you're going to go to hell, the devil's going to eat you up, or whatever they say, you know. I just thank you for
I know that path. I try to keep a very open line and a friendly line to Christians here, but there are a few that come through that, you know, if you talk about anything besides it, they get pretty mad. And that's their own hangups, you know. If your faith's that strong, it shouldn't matter what we talk about. You should find something positive in everything we talk about, you know.
You know what I find really interesting is that they're even watching these shows, because
why wouldn't I don't get it. Yeah.
You know, a desire within them to want to expand their knowing, or to want to be closer to their God, or be in service, you know, brings them to shows like this, and they watch, and then they criticize all of it and write it. But something's brought them here.
Yeah, I have to cut you off, because not all of them. I've got some really cool Christians in my community that are open-minded and listen and talk. But I have gotten that extremist side too, where they come in. So I'm pretty lucky.
I'm not talking about all of them, but the ones that are criticizing, for sure. So did I finish my story? I don't know. I went off on a tangent.
Go ahead. I don't know. We just kind of went around in circles there. Basically, you were talking about how you got started in all this and how you just stepped up to YouTube finally, but you've been doing this a long time. I guess you started sort of as a psychic, then a talk show host, and then it got into everything else after that. Like, because now you're focusing on positive messages.
Yeah. Well, Accentuate the Positive is really the teaching of law of attraction, because as you said before, with every negative thought, I try and find the positive, because the law of attraction is all about vibration. What you put out, what you vibe, your vibe attracts your tribe. So basically what you're vibing, what you're feeling is, what you're vibing because you're feeling it, is actually putting out a frequency that's attracting a similar frequency back to you, similar situations, similar things. So being angry, being upset, being in resistance about anything is only creating a negative vibe, and that vibe's putting out a vibe that's not helping others, and it's also attracting more of the same. So accentuating the positive is so important in any situation, in death, in sickness, in poverty, anywhere we can accentuate the positive. People think, I can't because this terrible stuff is happening to me. So my journey started when Mum got sick with cancer. I was about 12 or 13 when she started getting sick, and I was about 16 when she eventually left her body. And the questions inside me, like I was this kid that just wanted to know why, like why, but why, but why? And my parents are like, oh God, I don't know. We didn't have Google in those days, right? So they're like, ask your mother, ask your father. That was my Google. Mum and Dad were Google. They did not have the answers. And so when Mum dies, I'm going, but why? Like, why did she get sick? Why do we get sick? Why? Why does this happen? And where do we go when we die? And actually, if we go somewhere when we die, we must have come from somewhere, right? So questions took me on this path. And inside, trying to navigate relationship and ego and career and having children and businesses, those questions kept me on the path until I reached that point of receiving my own answers. Like I stopped asking the questions and started to receive my own answers. And as I could receive the answers, I started to put myself out there to help others. The first time I really did this, the first time I was really called to do it was in my early 30s, I read the books Conversations with God. And there's have you ever read those books, Tarrin?
No, but I've heard lots of people talk about them. I do not, I have not read them.
Well, in the book, you've got Neil Donald Walsh talking to God, right? And you've got the ego, the questioner, and then you've got the answer. And what I found is, as I read the book, I would formulate more questions in my head, like, that was a really good question, and I really enjoyed that answer, but what about that? And as I asked the question, I started to receive the answers. So I was having my own conversation with God while I was reading Conversations with God. And it was so exciting to me. It was just beautiful. And so I started a little group in my house and invited people to come in and discuss the books. And in the books, they talk about deliberate creation a lot. They talk about our powers of creation and who we are as genius deliberate creators. He doesn't use the word law of attraction, but he's talking about law of attraction a lot. And when people came into my house, they sat there waiting for me to teach them. And I said, look, I'm not here to teach anybody. I'm just here to create a little group so we can talk about this. And people just wanted me to teach them. And that sort of put me on that teaching path. So that was like over 20 years ago. Yeah. And then
I remember going to things like that before the internet, before you could get out and podcasters, where you would actually just go to like people's houses and there'd be 10 of you. It would be like almost like a Bible study. You'd sit around and talk about stuff. It was always a small group.
Yeah. And one of the people that came to the group was a gorgeous person called Paul, who became a really good friend. He's since left his body, but he said to me, he'd been doing it longer than me. He was, he'd been in his late 60s now, so he was quite a bit older than me. But he said, there are other groups out there that talk about spiritual stuff. And I said, really? So we went a bit of a posse. We went, looking at a few groups, and I found a group, and they were all much older, because when I was in my 30s, the people that were talking about this stuff were a lot older than me. I think people in their 30s are doing career and kids and stuff like that. It's different today, but back then, and so they were all like in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and I was like this young girl in my early 30s. And I started to facilitate that group. We had a teacher that would come every week, and we'd do a meditation, and we'd have a discussion. And I did that for years. And I started facilitating my own groups. So that's how it started. And now we've got the internet. Yeehaw! Isn't it great?
It blows me away. And I do believe that this is part of the next phase of evolution, in a sense that the internet comes along. We can finally share ideas, meet people around the world. and bring our vibe up together. I mean, just the massive amount of progress I made on myself in a year because of reaching out and talking to people on the internet. Like, had this tool hadn't been available, I don't think I would find this locally. I don't think I would find people. I mean, I don't know. I think this is, man, this is like a blessing to have this time period where we can connect like this. I mean, me and you are sitting here talking across the world, and there's people watching from all over the world about this. You know, if you told me you could do this 10 years ago, I would have told you you're crazy.
I know, how cool is that? I want to say something about the internet, because the last interview I did was with this gorgeous woman called Yvonne Ballard, right? The last 2 interviews I did were 2 nurses that had near-death experiences. And one was very much about that, the love of God or our source or our guides or our mob. It was really about love. And the other one was much more expansive. And Yvonne was saying, you know, I want to tell you, parents, worry about kids that are constantly on the internet. They're constantly focused on this stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's a precursor to telepathy. So I often thought about this when I started doing energy healing workshops and started coming into my own intuitive ability, and I could read everybody's mind and talk to people, you know, telepathically, and do remote viewing and do look inside people's bodies. Like, I just explored all that aspect of our psychic ability. It just was so exciting. I looked at the internet and I thought, one day we won't need it, because we'll just be sort of tuned up with our own ability to connect and talk. Like, they talk about a lot of the kids that are here that have like a telepathic grid, and they can talk, they can do what they're telepathically, what we're doing on Google Hangouts. They can hang out with people in different countries and have conversations and have group conversations or personal conversations. They have an internal internet. How cool is that? And Yvonne was saying that one day, you know, we're getting used to this connection through the internet, because one day we will evolve, the human race will evolve to do what some of the kids are doing now. So it's very cool, huh?
Yeah, I was pretty skeptical about things like remote healings over the internet or getting a psychic reading over the internet and that sort of thing. But then when you realize, you know, after the whole Mandela effect blew my life apart, it was like, well, why not? Why can't this work? You know, what's real? This reality's anything you want it to be. So why can't you do that stuff? So I think it is a matter of a belief. If you believe it'll work, it works. And so I think it's amazing, this time period. Like you said, maybe it is a precursor to telepathy. You know, we're starting to be able to reach out and communicate with each other over distance.
Yeah, totally. And belief does play a huge part in reality. It makes it available to you. I mean, it exists outside of your belief, right? But at the same time, when you don't believe something, you can't actually see it or experience it with your 5 senses. What about your 5 senses? Because you can experience it with your 6th sense, but if you don't believe that you have a 6th sense, you're just going to blow it off as imagination, or just, you know, you're just going to blow it off. Like, there's that famous saying of when the boats arrived in America, and Indians didn't understand what they were, and so they were looking at them in the harbor, but they couldn't really see them. They sort of saw them like strange looking clouds, because they had no concept of what they were, so they didn't have a sort of a belief or a concept. And it was you know, Elisa Medhus, you know, Channeling Eric blog.
No, I don't know that one.
It's another YouTube channel, and she has a blog. So her son died about 6 years ago. He shot himself, and now he's a guide that speaks through many mediums, including me. And her father was a militant atheist, she calls him. She was a mother of 5 and a doctor, and then her son kills himself, and she starts asking very different questions. And now she has this huge YouTube channel and blog as well, with Eric channeling through these different mediums. But her father, who didn't believe in death, actually saw Eric materialize in front of his face after he died, and he materialized as he knew him as the 20-year-old, and then he created himself as a little boy, and he jumped on his grandfather's lap. And this happened to a man that didn't believe. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, I think it's amazing. If we sat here and interviewed all the people that watch this show, I have a feeling a lot of them have a similar story, that they were either you know, a hardcore atheist, or they didn't believe in anything, and something happened and they shifted over to here. I know for myself, I was never highly spiritual or something, but now I can't imagine living without, you know, that side of me. That would be crazy. It's wild to see where people start and where they end up, their path.
Yeah. So tell me, I'm going to be the interviewer just for a minute. Woke you up? What woke you up? Well, like, what was it that had you go?
I had to kind of like I had to hit rock bottom, and it just I just was doing bad things in my life, hit rock bottom, and kind of had a near-death experience, and that was what did it. And then I came out and I was like, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm going to be a better person. And I slowly worked my way up to a much better place. It was, you know, scratching and clawing, but I feel like I've gotten there.
Yeah.
What about you?
And obviously like you, like me, you have a curious mind. Otherwise you wouldn't have the show. You wouldn't be asking all these questions on air. I mean, a curious mind is a beautiful thing. It can actually hinder your progress, but it can take you forward as well. It's like this oxymoron, you know, like this, it's same, but not same. You know, people are always asking, is it this or that? And in truth, it's all of it. So a curious mind, a questioning mind can stop you from learning because you're always in the vibration of the question. But at the same time, if you have a question and then let that question go, like, I don't really need to know the answer to that. Like, oh, that'd be interesting to know. Let's have a cup of tea, or what's for lunch? Now you've let it go. And inside of letting go the vibration of the question, you're now open and available to the answer. And that's where I've become with my guidance. So my curious mind, when I was young, like, why, how, wow, I've got to find out, I don't know, I've got to find out, let me read it, let me read another book, let me go to another guru, let me go to another teacher. I was always in that vibration of the question and not available to the answers. But now I have a question and let it go, because I know the answer is going to come to me in some way. It could be through one of my guests, it could be my internal guidance, it could be through a meditation, an activation. I had a really interesting download the other day. I'm going off track, I know, but I had a question about Australia. We have this massive land, right? And when you fly over it, it's desert. It's so dry. It's so parched. When you fly over the States and you look down out of the plane, it's so beautiful. It's so green. You've got like 350 million people or something in your country, haven't you? You got a lot.
I can't remember what the last count is. Something like that. I believe so.
We have 22 million people.
What did you say?
22 million people in Australia on a land mass, which is about the same size as mainland USA, right? And I always wondered why it was so empty and so uninhabitable. And then I went and did a healing meditation with a few people. We were out doing some activations. And I got this download from the Aboriginal mob, and they said to me that they have kept the earth parched and uninhabitable because they don't want humans to live here in their current state of consciousness. And when we move beyond polarized consciousness of me versus you and hate and war, and we come into a more collective consciousness where we know that we are one, they said that the land will then reinvigorate and it'll be more inhabitable because they want the consciousness to be like a higher consciousness living on this land. And I just thought it was amazing. So I spoke to a couple of Aboriginal elders, and they said, yeah, this is a big secret that not many people know about, that they're like protecting the land for the new consciousness. So things like that, when you have questions and often they're not answered, but then in those times you can have them answered.
Well, do Aboriginal, I don't know much about what they believe, but do they believe a new Earth is going to come, or are you kind of the new Earth camp where a new Earth's vibrating up? Or, I mean, where are you at on that? And the Aboriginals, I'm a little confused on that.
So Gaia, the planet, is actually a soul, like a consciousness, like we are connected to a soul. It's actually a consciousness. Everything is consciousness. And she is going through her own evolutionary process. But the conscious beings that are living on her body, being humans, are lagging, are stopping her from evolving. So she's been evolving over the years. She was created like our bodies are created, like we are created. And she's evolving and she's moving in frequency to a new vibration. But in order to do that, the beings that live on her, which are a part of her body, because our bodies are made from the same stuff that the earth is made from. So we are a part of Gaia. We are Mother Earth as well. But the consciousness inhabiting our bodies needs to transform. And we need to stop killing each other and killing the earth and move to a more collective consciousness. And so when that happens, there'll be a new earth. Now, there are different timelines. There is different probabilities that can happen. And that is that she kicks us all off because we're not doing well and she just evolves, or that we come with her, or that we, you know, create a second world or a third world war and we all kill each other, and that's how we, you know, there's a few different timelines that can happen. And depends, like you talk about the Mandela effect, it depends what you're vibing, that you'll be, what timeline you'll be on. So yeah. That's the new, I mean, there are plenty of parallel realities that are Earth that you can go and visit while you fly around in your consciousness. And Garnet Schulhauser, one of the people I've interviewed on the show, excuse me, one of my favorite, he's actually been to another replica Earth, which is already existing in the fifth dimension, where everyone is connected to the reality that we are one consciousness. And they've stopped killing each other and fighting, and they've stopped hatred and war, and pretty much disease has been eradicated. It sounds like a pretty utopian society. The only thing I didn't like about it, as he describes it in his books, is that they don't eat food. They just eat a liquid green plant food. They don't actually sit down and eat a meal. They just sustain their bodies with this liquid plant food. They're not into food. And when you look out in our society and you see how huge food is, you know, recipes and food shows and restaurants, like food is such a huge part of our society, that and how we enjoy it, you know, in its many different forms. But he's also visited another parallel Earth where they do enjoy food like we enjoy food, but they don't eat any animal product. And so all the food that they enjoy is like a vegetarian animal product, because that society, again, doesn't believe in harming, you know, a sentient being, even though plants are sentient beings as well. So it's really interesting. There's so many things available to experience, so many timelines and parallel realities.
Yeah, we've had big debates about that on this show, and talks about that. It is interesting to think, if you have just multiple realities, that somewhere the Earth's already evolved and done this. And, you know, as I think Dolores Cannon described it as we're just fleas on the back. And, you know, it doesn't care either way if it's taking us with or not. So I think some people will go and some will stay. And we'll see what happens there. I don't know. I'm so torn, because I really don't have a clue what's going on. I'm guessing on a lot of this stuff, what feels right, what doesn't feel right. And a lot of these different theories all sound good. You know, it's hard to decide between just one or two. It's like, well, that sounds good, and that sounds good. So I'm just going to listen to my gut and float around until it feels right. Something, because part of me, I like to believe we could shift realities. I dig that idea. I don't know. Do you talk about that on your show, about shifting reality? I know you talk about deliberately creating things, but do you feel like you could jump realities if you wanted to?
You know, every time we change a thought from a negative to a positive, we shift timelines, we shift realities. You talk about that Mandela effect every single time. You know, there's a movie called Sliding Doors.
Oh, no, I have not seen it.
It's Gwyneth Paltrow is in it. So it's a Hollywood movie. And she plays an English woman. So she's living in England. She's got the boyfriend. The boyfriend's cheating on her. She's working hard as a waitress and paying all the bills. And he's a lazy, you know, writer that's sort of supposed to be creative. She's supporting him and he's off having affairs. Anyway, she misses the train one day and she comes home and finds him having an affair and she leaves him. And then the next, simultaneously as this movie's going, she doesn't miss the train. Or sorry, she doesn't miss the train and she comes home and finds him having an affair. And one day she misses the train and she comes home and the woman's gone, and they maintain. So there are two simultaneous parallel realities coming through the movie. And it's really interesting because it's exactly, but it's like those tiny choices, like a shifting realities all the time. Like, we're literally blinking in and out of what we see as reality, because our physical apparatus is not set up to understand manifestation as it's happening, or time as it's happening. We have these physical bodies and this physical mind that perceives our reality as we perceive our reality, because what's actually happening, it's all just information and energy that we're experiencing because of what we perceive. And our perception is actually what's creating our experience of reality. Isn't it interesting? It's all just energy and information, like a quantum soup, but we're perceiving what we're perceiving because of our physical apparatus and what we're believing and thinking to be true. And in every thought and every decision that we're making, we're shifting timelines all the time, moving back and forth. I had Natalie Sudman on the show, who was blown up in a bomb blast in 2007. She was working as an archaeologist, as a contractor in Iraq, not in the army, but she was in an army tank when she was, an army truck is when she was. And in her amazing book called The Application of Impossible Things, she talks about being with one of her buddies. She calls them spirit guides. She said he was like a really good friend, like a real, but my best friend. And then designing her injuries, watching her physical body, and with her buddy, they were designing her injuries. So they would say, like, let's take out one of her eyes and see how she copes with life as a, blind in one eye. And they would look down that timeline and see that whole life unfold as she would be blind. Or let's chop a hand off and see how she copes with that. And they would just look at all these different realities as if they actually were happening, like watching them. So I remember thinking about that and thinking, there are just so many realities that are already available to us, and we're just picking different realities by what we're choosing. But they're already there. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so much for your mind to take in. You have to think it through a little bit, because if you never heard this message, you'd be like, what? But I understand that you can point the way you want it to go, like which one you're consciously experiencing. I'm still trying to play with it myself, and a big reason I brought you on was there has been talk since this show started about we want to do a group manifest, and we have batted around and talked about millions of ideas, and we get an idea and then it falls through, and we just haven't done it yet. So I want your opinion on, since this is kind of where you live, you talk about deliberate creation and manifestation and the law of attraction. Could you go ahead and give us a beginning guide to that? Like, okay, I do it, I manifest, but I'm not deliberately doing it as much as I could be. And I've never really done a group manifest. So where do we start? What do we do?
We are already doing a group manifest right now. We are creating what is happening right now. Anyone that is watching this, you and I, we're creating a group manifest, because everything manifests in non-physical, outside of time and space, before it becomes physical. And this is how psychics read, because everything that we think actually manifests. Years ago, I read the Seth books when I was in my 20s, actually. And there was a line in that book that had me throw the book across the other side of the room. And he said, every thought that you've ever had becomes manifest. And I didn't really understand what he meant at that point, but it becomes a manifest in varying different dimensions and in varying different states and frequencies. So we're involved with manifest right now. Like, and this was deliberate. You sent me an email, you said, this, like, you were deliberate in it. So we're actually doing it right here, right now. And everything that we're experiencing because we are vibrationally aligned with it. So we're experiencing law of attraction and being or being manifestors with everything that's happening, whether it's good or bad. We're experiencing it because we're vibrationally aligned with it. So to be deliberate in manifesting something that you want, for instance, if you're not thinking about what you want and then you're just letting life show you stuff, and you're like a cork bobbing up and down on the ocean, just going with the flow, going, oh, I don't like this and I do like that, and oh, and he's a dickhead, but I love that person. You know, you're sort of all over the shop with your emotion. You're sort of putting out all these different signals, which is creating your current reality. A deliberate creator knows that what you think and feel creates a vibration. And you know what that vibration is because of how you feel. Your feeling is like your eyes. It is an apparatus that shows you what vibration. It's an interpretation of vibration. Your eyes interpret vibration. Photons go into your eyes, go to the back of your brain. That interprets vibration into what we call a sight. Your ears do the same thing. Energy or sound waves go into your ears. There's an apparatus that interprets those vibrations into sound, and that's called healing. So vibration is interpreted, what we're vibing through our thoughts is interpreted through our emotion, through our feeling sense. So when you feel bad, you're interpreting your thinking vibration as negative or positive depending on how you feel. When you feel bad, you know you're putting out a negative vibe or a limited vibe. Let's call it limited. And when you feel good, you know you're putting out an expansive vibe. And the more expansive the vibe that you put out, the more possibility available to you to have what you want. When you are holding a negative thought, what happens is the energy that's available to you to manifest or create inside this buffer of time and space that we currently live in is limited. So people say, oh, I have to clean up my negative thoughts because I'm going to create negative things. But what happens is we have this thing called time-space that we're playing with. And when we think a negative thought, we actually pinch off the amount of energy available for manifestation. So even though negative thoughts do manifest, they take longer. But also you pinch off the energy available to you in all aspects of your life. So when you think very negatively, you actually pinch off the energy that's available to your physical apparatus, your body, and that nurtures your physical apparatus. That's why thinking negatively for a long time does create buildup of toxins in your body, which becomes tumors or infections or disease. I've played with this physically. I had a situation that I was really angry. I was so angry that I couldn't speak, that sort of angry. Someone had done something really terrible and I just got really angry about it. And I remember I instantly got sick. Like I was just sort of sitting there fuming going, oh, I can't believe it, I can't believe it. And I instantly got this flu cold thing. And I thought, okay, it doesn't matter how heinous some people are, how unfair some people are, being angry at them is just making me sick. So I've got to find a way to feel better about this. And I did. And I literally, the flu symptoms literally left overnight, like just literally left. It was this visceral, physical response to me shifting my frequency or changing my thoughts or accentuating the positive, literally positive. And I've done it when I've hurt myself or cut myself. I remember I was vacuuming when I was young. I was a young mum, and something fell off and hit me on the foot, and this big lump came up on my foot. And I just sat in meditation and appreciated it and said thank you, and thank you for showing me that I was in a sort of stressful place and I needed to just calm down. And the lump just literally went down. I watched it with my eyes just go down. So we're doing it all the time, but we can be deliberate in playing with it. And what we have to be deliberate in doing is how we feel, because our feeling is an indication of what we're vibing, the vibration or the frequency we're putting out into life. And when we feel good, we're vibing this amazing frequency that's attracting to you your thought, like what you want. And so the better you feel, the faster you manifest. And life becomes like this constant synchronicity, because you have a thought and then it sort of shows up and you call that synchronicity. Oh my God, I was just thinking about that. I was just thinking about you and here you are. You know, like I was thinking about someone and they ring, you know, on the phone, or they forget phones, they're old phone. You know, they contact you on Facebook or Google Hangout or whatever. So it just becomes this like, wouldn't it be nice to do that? And then you meet someone and they say, oh, wow, this person does that. I was just thinking about that. Well, they're looking for this. Oh, my God, that's so sick. So that's how life becomes. The higher you raise your vibration, the more positive you become, the more synchronicity just happens. It's like life is just answering your call all the time, and it becomes a really exciting ride. But you've got to work at it.
Really interesting. I've never heard synchronicity described like that, but it makes a lot of sense. I know in our group, our community group, it seems like every day is more and more synchronicity that's going on. Like, we're blown away with how much synchronicity is around in our lives right now. And I never really equated it to positive, higher vibration. That makes a lot of sense. How does someone start? Okay, say they're at ground zero, where, you know, they're a negative person, they live in a negative environment, they don't like their spouse, they don't like their life, they hate their job. Like, those kind of people that are like 90% of the planet, how do they start digging out of that? When they talk to you? So give them like a real tool. What do you mean forgiveness? I don't know if I could forgive. I'm just playing devil's advocate, but I mean, like, how do you forgive someone that really burned me? I don't know if I could. And how do they start?
Well, what I do with my clients is it really becomes like a counseling session, because it's really about cleaning up your negative beliefs. So, for instance, my father was an egotistic. He's since left his body as well. But when I was young, he was married to his second wife. He was a very angry man, and so he used to beat me, and I just got a lot of beatings. And he put me in hospital a couple of times. So I had good reason to like harbor a lot of hatred towards a man that used to physically beat me. But when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was really discovering, reading those books and doing the energy healing and discovering that my vibe attracts my tribe, my life, I realized that I had to clean up my thoughts about the people that I loved that I hated, because hating them wasn't actually doing me any good. And I remember thinking about how all the life is a stage, about Deepak Chopra was talking about, everyone was saying that life is an illusion, life is an illusion that we're creating. And I sat and thought about it in a meditation one day, and I thought, if that's really true, and we're all just actors on the stage, and who we are behind the personality and behind the circumstance and behind the event is pure positive energy, is love, and we all love each other when we're in our real home, when we're all souls, then I'm going to go to the Academy Awards and I'm going to give out some prizes to the people in my life that have played their role really well. And the Best Actor prize, of course, went to my dad. And I looked at life through those eyes, through that perspective, and it just took a whole lot of weight off my shoulders. And I started to see that everyone's playing their role and that my soul has set it up like that. That's why deliberate creation and law of attraction and knowing about who we are and the afterlife are so intrinsically linked, because we're co-creating with our soul. Like our soul, before it inhabits a physical form and a physical mind, has a plan. And that plan is to have experiences. And from those experiences, we will expand and we will grow. And as we expand and grow, everybody expands and grows. In fact, consciousness itself, or God, or the universe, or the multi-universe, or the infinite field of possibility, or the quantum field, it all expands and grows as we expand and grows, because we're all intrinsically connected. So understanding that we are here to experience, and that experience includes good and bad, makes you look at life differently. You stop being the victim to what's happening, and you start saying, wow, I created that. On some level, I created that. I created the death of my mother, my father bashing me up, being homeless. I created all these things that happened to me. And when you take that on as you are the creator of everything that happens to you, you take back your power and you actually connect to that higher aspect of yourself. You connect to your soul. And then you have to look at, what did I learn from that? What did I gain from that experience? And that's what I do with my clients. I get them to look at what happens in their life from a broader perspective, from a perspective of, how did it expand me? How did I grow? And you get things like, I found out that I was a strong person. I found out that I'm not going to take anybody's shit anymore. Like, I actually found out stuff about who I am. in order to experience an energy of forgiveness, which is such an amazing experience, to actually let go, hold on to hate, and then forgive, and then feel it all washing off you, and then your vibration rising. It's kind of like better than sex. It's like this Kundalini experience. Forgiveness is such an awesome experience, but you can't have that experience unless someone's done something to hurt you. So as souls, we take on these negative minds and negative bodies and well, I want to say negative bodies, but negative ideas, and we do something terrible to someone, and then they have this forgiveness experience. And so we can thank that person for giving me that experience. Like my dad, I thanked him in my mind, and I thanked him physically as well, because I did this experience before he died, and I went to him and I thanked him for everything that I had experienced in my life with him, which made him very uncomfortable because he didn't understand what the hell was going on. But but he just went into his ego and puffed up his chest and like, yeah, I was a good father, I did really well, and like that's how he could survive what we went through. Yeah, we can do it.
I get that, because there's a lot of people that believe like you contract with all these people on the other side before you come in and say, okay, here's the lessons I want to learn. I need this experience of, I'm going to see what it's like to have my father beat me. I'm going to see what it's like to be around all these evil people and do evil things and bad stuff, and then stop and turn myself around. Like all those are experiences that you can, if you look at it that way, it really helps release a lot of it. Like how mad can you be at a guy that, you asked him to do this to you back on the other side,
Exactly. That's exactly right. So if anyone's experiencing something that they don't want at the moment, the way to get over it, the best way to get over anything that you're going through that you don't want, is to actually thank it. Because once you get the lesson, it doesn't need to be there anymore. Like when you get the lesson, you experience gratitude inside not getting what you want. Can you raise your vibration and hold a positive vibration when the shit's hitting the fan, when everything's going wrong? Can you do that? Like that's a challenge that we give ourselves, like the soul gives us. When I was talking to Brenda, who was the last person I interviewed, she said the same thing. She said that souls take on this challenge of having a physical life experience because they see the contrast that we go through. They see the variety of vibrational experience that we can have here. It's a really vast, we can have from this terrible, horrible thing to absolute ecstasy. There's this huge range of vibration that we get to experience while we're physically focused. We don't get that in different dimensions, and we definitely don't get that in the dimension that we hang out in when we're non-physically focused, which is pure positive energy. It has variation, but it's predominantly pure positive energy. So we come into a play of opposites, a denser vibration, to play with different energy, to play with negative energy, to play with the dark and the light, to play with the energies of what is perceived as opposite. And souls kind of look at this physical ride. It's like looking at a really tall, saying, I can do that. You know what? I can climb that mountain, and I'm going to I'm going to be really good at it. So they look at this physical life and they say, no way I'm going to forget who I am. I'm going to take on that physical mind body, and I'm going to remember I am infinite possibility and a genius creator, and I am, an extension of source energy. And then they come into a physical body and they forget, and they have these lives, and then they die and they go, oh my God, that was amazing. I didn't remember who I was. I can't believe that I didn't remember. You're so sure you're going to remember. And then you come into a physical body and get so swept up with what life has to offer, and your parents, imprint thought forms on you, and society imprints thought forms on you, and you start to believe these thoughts that this is who I am. Yeah, so mental mind kicks in and says, don't believe those crazy new age people. They're not going to do you any good. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting what's available to us. But remembering who we are is the ride that we're on here while we're physically focused. Do
you think it ruins the experience to figure it out? That,
no.
It kind of like the theory is you come in and your memory's erased, so this experience is more potent, and you're not really supposed to know. Otherwise, if you knew this was just a big game here or theater act, it really wouldn't hold the same amount of emotional learning. Like, are we supposed to remember, or is it something that, you know, does it kind of water it down if we remember? Or do we get ejected out of the game if we start figuring it out that, you know, the Great Oz is back behind the curtain? Like, do you think, have you ever thought about it that way?
I haven't actually, because the more you remember, the more delicious the ride is. Because, you know, life, we live in a polarized environment. So there are going to be politicians that you don't agree with. There are going to be people that think in ways that you don't agree with. We live amongst this huge variety, which makes it all the more delicious. And when you remember who you are, you remember that you came for the ride and that all of it is fantastic. And actually, the more you remember, the more you enjoy the ride. It's like being on a roller coaster ride, right? If you're going down that hill terrified and pissing your pants, maybe it's a thrill, but you're really not enjoying the ride. But if you go down that ride like exhilarate and having the time of your life, you're still kind of scared, but it's just an exciting ride, and you want to do it again and again and again and again because it's exciting, but you're enjoying it instead of being frightened by it. Because one of the things that, again, back to Yvonne, because she was the last person I interviewed, so she's fresh in my mind after everything she said, was that when she had her near-death experience and she came back into her body, that she realized that every single one of us is living in, and that most of our thoughts are colored with this fear. So when you awaken to who you are, that fear becomes less. You still have fear, because fear is actually a part of the human experience. So, for instance, if you were in a house that was burning down and you weren't afraid, you might stay there and burn down with the house. So, you know, you need that sort of fear, that flight, fright, to run away from a dangerous experience. But to not have fear in every thought is how we are enjoying the ride. You know, we talked about at the beginning of this, Tarrin, that those fears that arise when you put yourself out there in the public eye, you know, that's fear. Like, what are they going to think of me? And listening to the trolls, you know, that's fear too. When you get upset about what people are saying, that's all fear-based thinking. So the less fear-based thinking you have, the more you're enjoying the ride. And as Esther Hicks says from the Teachings of Abraham, you know, life is determined to show you every aspect of despair. So the ride never becomes uninteresting. It's always an interesting ride, always.
That's well put, Karen. I appreciate that. It's the top of the hour. I'm bringing in some other panelists to join this conversation. And, let me unmute. Sorry about that, Burma. And I don't know where. Oh, one sec here. Okay, we're getting two other guests here. And Magi is supposed to join us tonight too. I don't know where he is. But if you haven't had a chance, Karen, this is Unirock. He also has a channel on YouTube and comes on my show a good bit. And Unirock, you want to say hi to her, and we will.
Hi. Yeah, I love that. I love hearing what you're saying. It's good stuff. I'm learning a lot. I haven't studied this topic, so I'm very interested. It's really cool.
Oh, cool. What does your channel talk about, Unirock? Is it
Actually, it's ambiguous. It's either uni or uni, whatever you want to say. You can call me uni or uni rock. Jason, my name's Jason. Call me whatever you want. We just cover conspiracies, but we try to figure out conspiracies instead of just talking about them. So that's what the channel does.
The reason we let him hang out with us is because he always ends with a positive vibe. A lot of those conspiracies get really dark, and I don't usually I don't always invite those guys on my show, but Uni's different. He always has a good time with it, laughs. I mean, he dives in there, but he always has a positive message. So just about anyone I bring on the show is always going to be, we're always going to push towards the positive at the end of it. We might, you know, talk about some scary stuff, but at the end we're like, here's what we want to our reality to be, you know. And then my buddy Burma, she comes on the show as a panelist. So if you'll say hi for a minute, Burma, and
hi for a minute.
You did it. Okay.
Hi, Burma.
No, it's wonderful to hear you talk, because the things that you're saying is right along how I feel about most things, you know. And then of course there's some things I'm learning. So I got my little paper that I'm doodling and writing stuff down on. So
cool.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Have you got a channel as well?
Oh, here we go. I am trying. I'm trying to work it in, getting it together. It'll happen when it's the right time. But for me, of course, the nervousness plays into it. Even just being on Tarrin's show is like a huge step for me, because I'm not like being on YouTube is, it can be what it is, you know. So
we were talking about that.
So it's helping me. He doesn't realize how much he's helping me.
Well, you do good. People ask, if you're not here, people are always like, "Where's Burma?" So you've become one of the favorite panelists. And that's a good thing. When people are asking for you, you're doing something right.
Well, I feel that. Thanks for the love, guys.
Yeah. Now, I think this is kind of up your alley too, because I've heard you talk about some of the same stuff Karen is talking about. So I want to throw this to you two guys. Here's the topics on the table. We're talking about deliberate creation, which Karen talks about. We're talking about New Earth, if you want to talk about that. We're also talking about how do you deal with negative people? If you're a negative person yourself, how do you make the first step and start going the right direction? And we covered some deep topics. So you can feel free to ask Karen a question directly, or you can just add in. So why don't we start with you, Uni Rock?
Oh yeah, Doc. I used to be a really negative person, honestly. That's why I pushed that positive, happy, no negative debate kind of thing on my channel. Even I was surprised, because we had the guy who had a completely opposite opinion than another guy, and everybody gets along really well when we talk. So yeah, I used to be in the military. I did a lot of, they teach you a lot of stuff that isn't positive there. So when I got out, turning into a positive person was like the greatest challenge in my life. But I will say that it made the biggest impact on my life. I wouldn't be on YouTube or successful on anything I have ever done in my life if I hadn't had switched that way of thinking. But it was difficult, because I think I've said this actually earlier today on a live stream, that I think that negativity is a thing that multiplies it by how much you feed it. So, I think it's great to teach people that. How I did it, I just always in my head repeated that I had to stay positive. And I swear, it sounds so simple, but that's how I changed myself, at least. So that's what I got
fantastic.
there.
That's fantastic. It's so interesting, because everything we think we want, we think that in the having of it, we'll feel better. And the irony of this is that we don't have to get anything we want, because feeling better is available right now. So how deliberate manifestation works is that if I win the lottery, I'm going to be a millionaire. Let's do money, because everyone relates to the money thing, right? And when I have all this money, oh my God, it's going to feel so amazing, and I'm going to be so happy. And in truth, you've seen that so many times where that doesn't happen. But imagine having the happiness without winning the lottery, and now you've got the happiness. So how do I get the happiness? Choose it. Like, choose a happy thought. Think of things that feel good. What do you love about yourself? What do you love about life? What's great? And then you reach a point of becoming so proficient at being happy that you can find what's great inside the bad. So, what's great about being diagnosed with cancer? What's great about the doctor saying you're going to die in a minute? The really bad things, I'm using death because most people see death as the worst thing that can happen. And in truth, if you speak to people who die, they tell you it's like the best thing that can happen. You drop all those negative thoughts. But, so you can reach a point of finding the happy inside all of it. What's great about this? What's great about this? What's great about this? And they're the questions that you've got to ask yourself. In 95, I went and did an Anthony Robbins course in Maui in Hawaii. And he talked about the questions that we ask ourselves. It's like this power of motivation. He's a motivational speaker. And what are the questions you're asking yourself? And a really great question is, what's great about this? No matter what's happening. What am I learning? What's good about this? What's the silver lining? What's the gift inside this? What's it telling me about myself? How's it expanding me? All these are really great questions to ask yourself when life's throwing at you, as Esther Hicks would say, every aspect of despair. Like, life is just determined to show you all the crap that's going down in this dimension, and there's a lot of it. But what's great about it? How am I learning? How am I expanding? So the questions we ask ourselves are really important. But congratulations to you from changing the negative into the positive, because it's not easy. You know, I've got a client at the moment who's going through an experience of, she just thought that if she shut life out and stopped being involved in life, she wouldn't have to deal with all the negative shit that goes down, right? But you can't hide yourself away. And then I went to see a beautiful conscious singer called Tina Malia, who sings kirtan as well as sort of soulful, like folk and pop music. Beautiful. She was out here touring Australia. Google her. She's just exquisite. Tina Malia. It's actually Tina Malia. And her story was that she was living her dreams. She was singing in a kirtan band with one of the gurus, and her life was really taking off. But she was experiencing this depression. And she said, one of the things that she said in her talk was, all those things that we do to distract ourselves from the depression, like eat, drink, take drugs, you know, go out with friends, watch movies, like all that stuff we do to distract ourselves from our negative thinking, she said, stopped working, just stopped working. And the depression just overtook her. And her teacher and her singing partner, Jayu Tal, who's a mantra singer, said, have you ever done japa, which is just reciting a mantra over and over and over and over and over in her head? So she thought, she was so desperate that she thought, well, you know, I could give it a go. What else? Because everything else has stopped working, even meditation. So she started to recite this mantra over and over and over in her head. And she said that months went by and nothing really happened. She still felt as bad. But she said one day, a little spark of light just lit up inside her heart, like the size of a pea. And then the next day it grew to the size of a quarter. And then the next day it was bigger. And then the next day it was bigger. And over a period of weeks and months, this light, this feeling of exhilaration and joy and love just expanded until it covered her whole being and then sort of went outside of her, right? And she just became this joyous being, from being someone who wanted to kill herself because she was so depressed. It wasn't like anything bad was happening in her life. She was getting all she wanted, but she didn't feel good, until she just became this expanded being of joy. And now she travels the world just giving that light to everyone in her songs, in her workshops. And her life is just this constant synchronicity, and she's just having the best time. Like, she's just such a beautiful, joyous being. I'm going to have her on my show because she's so busy at the moment. Wow. But that was such a beautiful story to talk about how finding the happiness is in here and it's not out there. You know, the happiness doesn't come from all the good stuff that happens to us. It comes from connecting to our soul, which is pure positive energy, and then growing it. And like we talked about before, Tarrin, you said, you know, if you wake up to the game, does it lose its luster? And I said, no, it just gets better. That's the same story. Like, when you wake up to the love that you are, you get to play here inside this ecstasy and joy and have such a good time.
I saw that happen to the Grinch when his heart grew. Same thing, right? Yeah, appreciate that. You got the joke. Okay. No, I agree that it does. It's interesting to see people's paths. Some people light up automatically. Some people really got to work hard to get that first ember going. And then what's funny is when you stop trying, sometimes that's when it really kicks on. Like, you know, you really want something really bad and you just let it go and trust the universe. All of a sudden that light starts. Burma, do you want to add anything to this?
I would just say, like, for me, I work with clients as well. And as a massage therapist, you know, if you're going to try to help them, you're not just going to help their body. You're going to try to help them as far as their soul's concerned. And when they're stuck in these negative places, you try to say to them, they're like naming off all these bad things, right? And I say, yeah, but you got to look at what that's teaching you. And you got to look at what the positiveness that you can pull out of that. Like, it's all a lesson. When you're in the forest, you can't see through to the field. But when you get to that field, you totally understand why you were going through everything, or at least you should. Yeah. You should try to sit in it and try to resonate with it. It's not always, everything's not always happy, but you can it's all about perspective and about you changing that aspect. And I know, because I've been through the same thing. When I was younger, I always thought, like, why are all these bad things happening to me? Because I was always sitting in the negative. I never got past out of that positive. Like, even here, like, outwardly, I was always a happy person, but inwardly it was different. So you change that, it changes everything. Manifestation happens a lot quicker. Absolutely. Exactly. Totally agree with you. 100%.
Yeah. And
that's so important what you said.
One of the,
sorry,
oh, no, I was going to say the worst time I ever had in my life is when I was hanging out with all the wrong people. And I mean, yes, obviously I have to take responsibility for that myself, for allowing me, but it's kind of like when you're broken, all you attract is broken people. You know, like when you work on yourself, all of a sudden those old friends take off. They don't come around anymore, and the new ones come in a much better place. And I think there's levels. Like, you know, you keep shifting up to people that are higher and higher vibration if you push that way. Yeah, and I think it's important.
Your tribe attracts your vibe attracts your tribe. Yeah, but that's true. Like they say, misery loves company. You know, like misery attracts misery. But I just want to say something to Burma about what you said about, you know, outwardly I was happy, but inside, like Esther puts it beautifully. She says you can't stick a happy stick empty gas tank, right? Your car is not going to go by sticking a happy sticker on the gas tank.
I really like that. I really like that a lot. That's funny.
And the universe is not listening to your words; it's listening to your vibe. And so many people say to me, I've had this huge email from someone recently that said, you know, I'm such a happy person, and this is all the shit that's going down in my life. And she just went through it. Like, it just took me ages to read this email. But sometimes when we pretend to be happy because, oh my God, I'm supposed to be happy, I've got to be positive, you know, accentuate the positive. But, you know, we pretend to be happy, but we feel sad. We're going to be a vibrational match to how we feel and not what we're presenting. So a happy sticker doesn't make the car go when you've got an empty tank. So it's so important to be really happy, like to just be authentically happy and not be. I used to be somebody that was really, as a young girl, like I started this sort of psychic trip that I'm now on, like a channel and a medium and all that. So I started because I was a massage therapist, Burma, and when I touched people, I started seeing their past lives and reading their thoughts, and it started freaking me out. And I thought, I got to explore this further. So I started doing a whole lot of energy healing workshops and realized that what I was learning was something that was already innate within all of us. And so this sense that we talk about, the sixth sense, it's actually our strongest sense. Funnily enough, it's the one we don't focus on in society, where we call it woo-woo or intuition, or we give it all these names and we ignore it. But it's actually our strongest sense. And Seth said in his book that all of us are communicating telepathically. Otherwise, we couldn't drive our vehicles. We couldn't drive the car. We're all communicating telepathically with all the other people on the road, because otherwise we'd all be smashing into each other all the time. Think about that when you're on the highway.
Cars.
Yeah. But this sixth sense of ours is our strongest sense. And when you start to focus on it, like anything that you focus on it, it grows. So that's what I did when I was in my early 30s. I started to focus on this sixth sense, and it was because I was a massage therapist. And I started getting all this information, and I thought, oh my God, my imagination's going crazy, right? I'm just making all this stuff up. But in fact, I was just perceiving all this sort of different energy. But yeah, it's so important to be really happy. So if you're not happy, don't pretend to be happy. Like somebody says, how are you? Go, I'm really shit, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point.
A lot of people say that.
Yeah, I think I heard Uni Rock says that every morning, I think. Rooney, why don't you chime in for a little bit? You haven't had a chance to talk. What do you think about what we're talking about? And do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, you know, it's hard. Like, I don't, I see people's struggle is what I'm trying to say when they go from the negative to the positive. And, you know, you can backtrack, you know, and it's so important to find, it's one of those things you have to find yourself. It's like you want to help somebody so much. You want to say, hey, there's just one solution to defeating any bad thoughts or negative feelings. But really, it's one of those internal journeys. And I don't want to sound too too much like it's easy and that people can do it in a day. But
hey,
Uni, I'm just saying.
Uni, I got to stop you for a sec. You went to all robot voice. Can you drop out and come right back in?
Will do. Be right back.
On? Yeah,
it's my connection's active. Will do.
That's it. No problem. All right, Karen. We're going to talk about, until he comes back, I wanted to bring up near-death experiences, because you had a pretty good show about that too. And but I forgot, before we get into that, someone keeps asking a question about, this is to you, Karen, if karma is different from manifesting. There's a question in the chat room for you.
Ooh,
is karma different than manifesting?
No. It's actually not different from manifesting. Yeah, it's the same. Karma, karma is manifesting. Yeah, you get what you give, right? What you put out comes back at you. If you judge and criticize people, judge and criticize you, karma is manifesting. Absolutely. Yep. Totally. And if you're loving and happy, like I have, had strangers stay in my home, and people say, aren't you scared to have, strangers? I open my home sometimes to have people stay. And I go, no, I actually am a really nice, genuinely nice, loving person, generous person. And I only attract those people. Like, I'm never scared about what stranger comes to my home. And what you put out comes back. Yeah, that's karma. That's absolutely karma. Mm-hmm. It's a great question.
Yeah, it was a good question. I did want to ask you this back to the last topic, but I try to ask questions when I see them come up in the chat room. And I'm sorry I missed your question. Sometimes I don't see them. I apologize for not getting that in there earlier. As far as the question, what do you say to people when you're like, hey, you can manifest your own reality? And one of the first things I hear is, well, if that's true, I want $1 million in my bank account. I want that to manifest in my bank now, or it doesn't work. It's not true. You always hear that extreme.
Okay, I'm going to come back. This is so important. I'm going to come back to what reality is. We spoke about it. We touched on it briefly. Reality is how you perceive it, because we live in a quantum soup of energy and information, right? And then we have these apparatuses called eyes and ears and noses and touch and smell, and again, the apparatus of the feeling emotion, the sixth sense, which perceives reality. So what is reality? Reality is energy and information, and then how we experience it is how we perceive it. So when you say, I want to manifest my own reality, what we're manifesting is how we're perceiving life. So we're saying that in order to perceive life in a happy way, I need $1 million in the bank. I need to win the lottery. So that's a very ignorant view of how we are as creators. And so what I teach as a teacher of deliberate creation is to teach you about how we perceive. What we believe is how we perceive. And, when you're looking at people on the internet and you're judging them, you're not judging them for who they are. You're having a perception of who they are based on what you believe about life and yourself. And so you have a negative experience of that person or a positive experience of that person, depending on the beliefs within you. We can look at a painting, 12 people look at a painting. Someone sees it as an ugly mess. Someone sees it as the most profound thing they've ever seen. Someone doesn't get it. Everyone has a different perception and therefore a different experience. And so life is not about what's happening to you. Life is about how you're perceiving it. So what we are manifesting, we're not manifesting stuff. We're manifesting emotion. That's how we create our reality. We're manifesting the feeling. And when you do manifest the feeling, so when you get happy and, move from the, negative, ugly cow place to the happy place, then you have the ability to paint on the canvas of life the stuff, anything you want. But what's really interesting is that when you have the happy place, that stuff that you believed that you wanted because you thought it was going to make you happy becomes irrelevant. Like, I used to think that owning my own home and having a big mansion overlooking the ocean would really make me happy. And I actually manifested it many times, but I never owned the places I lived in. They were always rentals. And I still don't own the place that I live in, but I live in a nice place, and it's provided for me. A friend of mine owns it and provides it for me, and it's all very easy living here. And as I started to sort of live this more and more, I realized that all that stuff that I thought that I wanted to make me really happy, it's kind of irrelevant. the thing that makes me the happiest is actually doing what we're doing right now. It's actually helping people have those aha moments, you know, have those like, oh, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. Like that's like the best thing I can do, you know, standing up.
That's good. I've never heard that answer, and I like that, because that was always like a stumper. And people be like, well, I just manifest me $1 million. And it's like, I don't think it works like that. I want to get... I'm sorry.
You have to ask yourself why you want the $1 million. I'm going to manifest me $1 million. Like, why do I want the $1 million? Because I'm going to be happy. Well, manifest the happy. Then you got the $1 million, right?
Right. That makes sense to me, Karen. Let me jump over to Uni, because he got cut off when he was trying to say his thing. Go ahead and pick up where you left off, buddy. And then I'm going to introduce, we have a latecomer guest. Magi's finally here. So go ahead, Uni.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Doc. You know, I was just saying that if it is hard for anyone specifically to find a way to become positive, I say the best advice that I would give anyone is to just try different things. And, you know, every little tiny thing you do completely adds up. I mean, when I said earlier that negativity multiplies itself, or it's exponential, positivity is the same exact way. So, you know, everything on one side is the same as the other most of the time in life, and it's the same there. So I think anyone who tries will eventually succeed with it. But yeah, that's about all I had left there.
Oh, excellent.
Actually, that's such a really amazing point that you made, because, you know, I put on monthly webinars called the Inner Sanctum for people that join. And the next person I've got, and I invite some of my radio guests, podcast guests, to come and join us, is a lady called Frances Key, whose mother died. She was an Australian born, and she moved to the States at the end of the World War II. And she was 86 when she died in 2010, and she was a spiritual teacher and seeker. And after she died, she came to Frances and said, right, I'm going to tell you some stuff. And she's written 4 books, which are really the most amazing books I've ever read. Like, there are a few books that rocked my world. Conversation with God was one of them. The Abraham stuff was one of them. A few other books, and these are one of them. And in the books, they talk about vibrational spheres of thought. I've called them thought forms in the past, but reading the books, she calls them vibrational spheres. And when you talk about, Uni, about, you know, when you plug into a negative thought, it sort of perpetuates and you get more and more negative, and it's the same with the happy thought. It's like Esther Hicks calls it momentum of thought. Like it's like you push a boulder off the hill, it goes slowly, and then it builds momentum and gets faster. So there is that momentum of thought, and it feels like sometimes when you're plugged into this vibrational sphere that you're literally being fed negative or positive. Like you're literally being fed a specific vibration. And it feels like it becomes overwhelming. And it's like you now start being, you're not the thinker, like they're thinking, it's thinking you, you know. And that's where people get stuck in depression and feel hopeless and helpless against their own thoughts, because they're literally plugged into a vibrational sphere of energy, which is a similar vibe. And as you think that thought and indulge in that thought, you're feeding it, and it's growing, and it's feeding you. And it's growing inside you. So there's this sort of relationship between you and this vibration of thought. But as deliberate creators, we have the power and the ability to just unplug, like to just stop it, to change the thought, And as we change the thought, we change the timeline, you know, like, because that vibrational sphere is creating a timeline. And as you unplug and plug in, like I just literally think of a plug that you plug into the electricity, you can unplug and plug into a different sphere. You know, you've got a different reality now that you're creating, because you're plugged into a different source of vibration. And it's only a source of thought. It's not the source of you, but it's a source, an energy source. And it's really interesting, but we have the ability to do that. And sometimes it does feel like it can be overwhelming and we can't unplug. You know, one of my clients was a heroin addict for 35 years, and she just thought that she was never, ever, ever going to give that up, because she was so plugged into that vibration, right? But she did it. It wasn't easy, but she did it. We can do it. We can change our reality, and it just takes a bit of effort. It takes doing something different. So when you're used to a way of thinking, maybe just think differently. Yeah, just doing
Agreed.
something
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's good advice. I finally got also Magi, are you on now? Did you get your stuff straight? Go ahead and say hi.
He's muted. I think he's muted.
Is he muted?
Yes, yes.
Nothing but problem. Magi, go up to the top and unmute on Google Hangouts. He let me do a little introduction for him. He also has a YouTube channel. It's the first time he's been on with me. I've been meaning to get him on for a while, but he wanted to come on this show. If you figure out how to unmute, just wave in. It's your Google
Red
Hangout.
button.
It's if you scroll to the top, it's a little mute microphone button. Just click that. You actually got your Hangout muted, I think. Anyway, we'll come back to him when he figures that out. Poor guy. He's going to come in for the last 5 minutes of the show.
Maybe
to have him back.
type in the typing box your question.
We'll figure that out. Well, I did tease that we were going to talk about near-death experiences. So
Yeah.
I want to throw that out there. But I first want to start with Burma. Did you have any questions about near-death experiences before we start down this road, or any comments you'd like to say about them?
Wow. I would like to have one. I mean, not like in
No.
a bad way, you know, like let's have an accident so I can have a near-death experience. But I think that people that have them, they're really profound. Like, you know, I had one bad accident, but I got hit in the head so hard I don't remember nothing. So unfortunately, I've never had that. But I'm definitely interested to hear other people that have.
And
You know, it's really.
I've had one myself. Yeah.
You,
Have
you
you?
had one too, right? I had one. Uni had one. Most of the people in this community seem to have some sort of, in the Mandela Effect community, a lot of them, a very high percentage, have some sort of near-death experiences in the last few years, which is kind of interesting to me. But Uni, do you want to say anything about that before I toss that over to Karen?
I mean, yeah, when I had mine in 08, I think it, or maybe 09, it changed my perspective a lot. And I think it did play a role. I think I thought a little different afterwards. But yeah, I think it can affect people a little bit and open their mind, I believe.
I would say mainly it's a positive. I don't know too many people that have negative experiences after them. Oh, wait, do we have? Oh my gosh, is Magi, did you get it fixed? Can you speak?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thanks for joining us.
What a deep voice.
Magi also has a channel. He's been trying to get on this stream for like 40 minutes. I'm going to let you have the floor for a few minutes just so you can catch up. You can any of the topics are open. You can talk about manifesting, near-death experiences, what to do with negative people. Go ahead, take the floor for a minute.
Yes, I would just like to ask Karen. I was listening to earlier.
Karen.
I'm
I had
sorry.
to practice. Yeah, no, it's
Very,
okay.
very sorry. Sorry about that.
No, I have to keep.
Karen.
I have to retrain myself.
When you were talking about seeing those on the other side, do you think if they pass with like when you were talking about your father, when they pass with these negative these things, do they take them with them when they go?
That's a great question, and I just want to say, wow, your voice is amazing, so deep and luscious, gorgeous.
Thank you.
We were saying that on Discord the other day.
Yeah.
Okay, here's
I
the
mean,
thing.
I heard. Oh,
we are multidimensional beings living all our lives simultaneously, because outside of this time-space reality, there is a completely different experience of reality, of time. And so we're experiencing life in many different levels of existence on many different dimensions. And as we pass from this physical body, we still get to, we're still creators, and we're still connected to our ego mind. We have a variety of what we can experience, and we tend to experience what we believe. So if you're a religious person and you believe in heaven and hell, and you think that that's what's going to happen to you when you die, you know what? That's usually what you get to experience when you die. But just like we have free will choice here to choose to think differently, we do in other dimensions. And again, Yvonne, the last person I interviewed who had a near-death experience in 2000, she was a nurse who died 2010, I think it was, something like that. She said that when she passed, she saw all these people dying and going to their heaven and hells of their creation. and then sort of realizing inside the heaven and hells that they were actually creating it. Because when you're not tethered to the physical mind body, you have a bit more freedom of consciousness, although you do carry with you your beliefs until you realize, I'm hanging on to these beliefs, I don't need them anymore, and you drop them, and then you experience moving through different dimensions until you go back to the spirit side, as Garnet Schulhauser calls it, where you're pure positive energy, and you're actually not in physical form anymore. You're like a spark of light. But we can have different experiences in different dimensions. We can hang out in the astral and have complete lives, you know, in our astral body. We look the same in our astral body.
I think my question was more, maybe I didn't word it right. After they've passed on, if they've taken on this negative, how would you go about assisting them, or could you even, if they've passed on and have ended up in a negative reality, I mean, how would we here in this reality go about assisting them in a positive way? I don't know how else to word that.
That's a great question. And I mean, what my mob are telling me that every thought you have actually makes a difference. It not only makes a difference.
So sorry.
Well, I was kind of relating it. I'm kind of relating it, and I don't want to get it. Like a lot of religions have prayer for the dead as an example.
Yeah. But you can do you can do this.
I was asking you though, if you have contact with those on the other side, and they are trapped in this negative awareness, how do we back here as like a collective help raise their vibration to a positive?
By thinking well of them, by just, you know, sending thoughts of appreciation and love to them. But none of us are trapped in a negative awareness, because all of us have the choice. That's what I was asking. Okay. But all of us have the choice to unplug at any time. But it makes it easier when we think well of people. Like, we can do that. I have a client, and she's part of our Inner Sanctum, that her father was in hospital, and she's been playing. A year ago, she was so depressed she wanted to commit suicide, and now she's seeing lights and orbs and having all these mystical experiences simply because she went on YouTube and she found a whole lot of YouTube channels, and mine was one of them, and she started listening to a whole lot of stuff, and she started changing the way she thought about herself, right? And so her dad was in hospital and he was really sick, and she just thought about him in a really positive way and sent him lots of love and healing energy, I suppose. And he rang up and he felt a lot better. So we can do that whether people are incarnate or not, because having physical bodies doesn't necessarily mean that you're more alive or less alive than if you don't have a physical body. An astral body, you know, when we can play with the astral, we can be dead and play with the astral, or we can play when we go there every night while we're not physically focused anyway.
Yeah.
And really it's just a focus. But anyway, having a positive thought positively affects other people. So yeah, prayer. But rather than asking, prayer is always about, please God save their soul, or please God help them, or please God heal them.
Right.
But a positive thought is if someone's sick, for instance, if you visualize them being healthy and happy and focus on that thought and expand that thought, that actually really impacts them. So for instance, recently I was in the country, and we did a house swap. I was staying in this beautiful place, and I was with my daughter, who had been having a hard time last year, going through her own dark night of the soul and having a lot of negative thoughts about herself. And she had been feeling a lot better. We spent a few weeks together in this beautiful house. And then I was driving back to Sydney. She was driving up to Queensland, different place in Australia. She went back into her sort of negative thought, right? And the mother in me said, I've got to stay here and look after my baby girl because she's in a really bad place. And my guide said to me, she needs to know how to sort this out. You can't sort this out for her.
Yes. And
so I listened to my guidance, but the mother in me was like, I'm going to cancel everything and just stay here and look after her. But anyway, I listened to my guidance. I got in the car and left. I was giving a friend of hers a lift, and we were talking about Ho'oponopono. Do you know that? Ho'oponopono. It's a traditional, it's from Hawaii, Polynesian healing technique, and it's just 4 thoughts. One is, I'm sorry. The next one is, please forgive me. The next one is, I love you, thank you. It's just 4 thoughts. So the two of us were talking about how amazing it is. And my daughter, who I'd left panicking, and she'd gone off into the paddocks, doing the panic thing, literally 10 minutes later sent me a text saying, I'm sorry, I love you, thank you for looking after me, I'm going to be fine. And I showed the text to the little friend that I had in the car, and we weren't even doing it to her. We were just discussing it. We were just discussing it as a beautiful thing to talk, to do. And it had a complete impact on my daughter. Like, she completely found that place within herself, because I wasn't there telling her to think positive, right? She found that place within her, and she came back to, and it's just, our thoughts are powerful, man. They are powerful. And so sending a negative thought or a positive thought really impacts people. They have choice. They have choice to receive it or not receive it. And depending on their vibration allows that receptivity. But we are powerful. And as Yvonne said, who had that near-death experience, when she was out hanging out in the universe, and she said that she saw this universe that was bigger than anything you could ever even hope to imagine. She said, every thought we have affects every part of that. Like, wow.
I agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. So
you guys, I want to let the other panelists jump in on this topic. Do you guys have some comments you'd like to add on that?
Go ahead. You can go first.
I just find it all really interesting because, like I said, I went from negative to positive. I haven't really practiced more than just what I learned when I did it. So I think maybe if I do start maybe practicing some other techniques, I could maybe go further. So I'm learning a lot, and I'm just happy that I don't have anything right here, but I appreciate hearing it. That's for sure.
I'll throw my 2 cents in on this. I didn't have some sort of master plan or knew anything like this. Basically, I just said that when a choice came up, I was going to choose positive, even if it was a lot harder and more painful. And most of the time it was. But after you get through the first couple positives, it gets easier and better, and it comes easy. But the first few, those are tough, man. It's like, do you disrupt your life and tell someone what you really think and move on? Or do you have to move positive? And one of the tools I found was take a step back and then look at both choices and choose positive. It was that simple for me. And eventually it started working. It doesn't have to be that complicated. What do you think about that? Excuse me, Magi, you have something you want to add on that? Have you gone through this yet where you've worked your way out to a more positive place, or are you still in the negative?
Yes, I was agreeing. No, I've worked past the negative. And the only reason I had the question is some people that have near-death experiences I've seen or researched, they don't all see this light. They see fire. That's why I was asking her. Yeah, they see hell. Too, and I wasn't really speaking of me. I was wondering that if that person had a near-death experience seeing that hell, I guess if you want to call it that, and then that person would pass. That's why I'd asked that question, how we assist back here in a positive way to get them out of that.
It's a beautiful thought.
That awareness.
It's a beautiful thought, but each of us have attached to us, our guardian angel, which is an aspect of the divine, which is
I agree with
which
that.
is not a being that incarnates into different realities. It's just it's actually a part of our soul. Our guardian angel is us. It's an aspect of the complexity that is our soul. And it is that part of us that never incarnates into a physical form, that always stays focused in pure positive energy.
So do you think do you think the ones that are experiencing the hell at the near-death experiences can be reached? That's what I'm saying. Have you personally? What I was asking was, have you personally guided those?
Yeah, well, hell is a construct of our creation, and
I understand all that. That's not what I'm asking. I'm sorry.
What happens when someone goes to a place called hell is that they're actually creating it with their beliefs and their thoughts.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I'm asking, have you ever personally ran across those and then had to give them assistance? That's what I was asking. Those that had near-death experiences that were
I've
their
seen that.
vibration. Yeah, that's you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know you. I know you're a guide.
He's wondering. He's wondering if people have near-death experiences, instead of seeing like the light in the tunnel, they're seeing hell, basically. So, have you ever helped anybody to get through that negativity of which
Yes.
what brought them there for their near-death experience? Is that was that better? Was that good? What you were saying, right?
That's
I've
exactly
spoken to a lot of discarnate, spirits that are not in physical body, but they're still, here in this plane of existence. And because they're still believing their negative thoughts, they're still attached to their ego mind. They're still attached to the physical world. And I've asked them to like chat to their guides and done that sort of thing. But I don't really think that it's my job to do that, because I think we have that assistance to us. And a bit like any healer, it's like when you're a healer or when you're a teacher, that's why I don't call my healer anymore, because when I was doing healings on people and I called myself a healing, I felt like I was taking the power away from them to heal themselves. Because we are deliberate creators. We have the power within us to unplug from those negative thought forms, to choose a different thought. And nobody can do that for us. We have to do that ourselves. So a teacher says, this is how I did it. Like, let me give you some ideas. And our guides teach us like that too. So I spoke to Garnet about a discarnate soul, because in one of his books, this is Garnet Schulhauser, he had some ghost wandering around and rattling around in a house for 200 years. And I said, why would their guides let them stay trapped when they could just reach back to pure positive energy and be in that sort of infinite freedom and possibility? Why stay trapped here when you're not in a physical body? And he said, well, it's just an experience their soul was wanting them to experience, like any experience we have while we're physically incarnate, and whatever negative or positive experience, it's just another experience our soul is choosing. And at any time, we as the consciousness that is that soul can choose a different reality, can choose a different experience. And then he said to me, you have to remember that when you're not time and space, 200 years is like the blink of an eye. It's nothing to the soul. And I go, I guess so, it is. So I don't sort of try and rescue anybody. I really want to teach people about how they can do it for themselves. And it's just, all I teach is how to shift focus, how to shift your thought from one thought to another, from one focus to another. I had an experience where I read a book by Peter Richelieu, and he was taken out of his physical body at night by a guide, and he was shown all these different aspects of the astral. And some of it was the Davic kingdom, like the spirits that look after the plants. And it was an amazing book years ago. And I so wanted to do that every night when I slept, I'm like, right, I'm going to do this. And it didn't happen for months. And then one day it did happen. And I went to another place where I had all these experiences talking to all these different people. And then I came back to my body, and I was hovering in and out of my body at the same time. And I saw through all the walls. Everything was translucent. And I saw my daughter waking up and walking down the hallway to come and wake up my body. And I realized that my body had called my consciousness back because my daughter was about to wake me up. And I could see all this, right? And it was just incredible. And it only ever happened the once. But afterward, I had a bit of a chat with my mob, like, wow, what was going on? And I didn't travel anywhere. And they said, no, you don't travel in physical time, space. Everything is just a matter of focus. It's like when you have a camera lens, what you're looking at through that lens is what you see. And when you move it or focus it, you'll see something different. And he said it's the same. They said it's the same with dimension. Focused here or focused there. It's just a focus. It's all about focus. Where are you focused? Where do you place your focus? Because that's what you're experiencing. Right. And so
would you connect those with dream, attention, and visions or hallucination? Do you think those are all connected?
How do you mean it's all connected? Dreams are.
Yeah. Do you see a difference in the dream attention than your astral
Well, when we're asleep at night, our soul, like our consciousness that's inhabiting this body, is up to a whole lot of things that we don't remember, because when we wake up into the body, we come back into the forgetfulness, right, which is really frustrating. Sometimes our guides give us, or our soul or our higher self gives us a little, like I had, you know, a little sneak peek of what was going on at night. And a friend of mine who is working on the book series that I'm putting together, Cyrus Kirkpatrick, he has a group called Afterlife Topics on Facebook. He has astral travels. He can do it at will. He can, like, literally just fall asleep on the couch and be deliberate with his astral travels. So there's a dreamscape that we have, which is us working out our subconscious thoughts. So we get to sort of like swim amongst all these different beliefs and ideas, and they play out in a dreamscape. And then we can, like, take our consciousness out of that dream state and go to different parts of the astral. We can literally take ourselves out of the astral and go to different dimensions, or we can go back and talk to our dead relatives. Like, there's so many possibilities available. There's no either or. We are multidimensional, and depending on where our consciousness at the time is focusing, that's what we'll get to experience. So it's the same when we're asleep at night. And dreams happen when we re-emerge back into our physical bodies. So we're tethered to the physical body. Some people have said that they see, like, it's, you know, when they've had near-death experiences, they've seen like a silver cord connected to the physical body. Elisa Medhus, in her book, in Eric's book, you know, My Life After Death, he explains how our spirit physically connects to the body. Fascinating. That's fascinating, but that's another subject. But yeah, we can experience anything we want to, depending on intention and focus.
Yes.
Attention, intention, and focus. Intention is a desire. Attention manifests, because we might have an intention to be happy or healthy or rich, but all our attention is on how shit life is and how I've got no money and how I have to struggle to get everything I want, right?
Right.
So intention, attention, and focus. What are you looking at? What are you putting your attention on? Yeah.
I really appreciate that. And believe me, we can get a lot deeper into this. We're definitely going to have you come back, but we are at the top of the hour, and we're almost out of time. We've got quickly. I know, it went fast, right? 2 hours, boom. But that's why sometimes we do a 4-hour show, because we just can't get everything in. But Tuesdays are usually 2 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let everybody say their piece before they split. You'll get 2 minutes to say whatever topic you want to talk about or wrap up. Try to respect the time. Go about 2 minutes each person, and then I want to end with Karen. And also, Karen, we need to talk about your website and let you plug your monthly meeting. And we haven't had a chance to do any of that, so we'll do that at the end. Let's start with Burma. You've been the quietest. Burma, last thoughts, parting thoughts.
I know. It's amazing that I'm the quietest. I try to be really nice while I'm here.
This is unusual.
I know, it's amazing, right? I was going to say, like, on adding to what you were just saying, affirmations. Like, I would say that this is something that's working for me. Like, just affirmations about yourself, about what would you like to have, that type of thing. And it all comes from self-love. It's not selfish to love yourself, not be selfish, but to actually love who you are. And I know that it sometimes is a tough thing, because you're learning and growing and stuff like that, but you got to realize it's all process, So that's all I have to say. And thank you very much for coming on, because it was very interesting to listen to what you had to say.
Thank you, Burma.
And of course, Tarrin, thank you very much, as always.
Thanks for thanks for coming anytime at last second. I know you work hard, and staying up at nights is tough.
No, I appreciate it though, because I learn a lot too. I mean, it's nice when you're a person that you're trying to teach people. It's always nice to have people that also teach you. So that's a wonderful thing for myself too, as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Burma. Okay, let's jump over to Uni Rock. Uni, go ahead. Final thoughts. Whoa, your sound is terrible. What's going on there?
Yeah, Doc.
Like a vacuum cleaner. Go ahead.
Am I flipping?
Are you on
He's
your
manifesting a clean place?
Oh, no, it's better now.
I am. I'm trying to focus here.
Whatever you did fixed it.
Yeah, sorry. Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Hi and bye, everybody. I really enjoyed talking to you. Magi, I looked at your channel real fast. I'm going to check it out after this. I haven't had a chance to. So, and it was nice meeting you. And I can't wait to talk again. Yeah, I do a lot of positive stuff on what I do, so this really fit in. I asked myself if I could bring anything to the conversation, and I'm glad I came because I learned a lot. So Doc, as always, thank you so much. Yep. Everybody watching, thanks, appreciate it.
Stick around for a little bit, Uni. There's someone keeps asking a question. Chariot keeps asking a question for you in the chat if you want to handle that. If not, I will give you a minute on air to answer. I missed the chat question. I keep forgetting to ask you it. So Chariot, so if you could ask that in the chat, I'd appreciate that. And Uni, you want to answer that for her, or I can let you jump on air and do it.
Yeah, I'll do it. So yep.
All right, Magi, I'm sorry we didn't get enough time. I'm definitely gonna have to bring you back another night.
That's fine, Tarrin. It was on my side over here.
No, I know, but I'm excited you're here. So welcome to the party, and go ahead and give us your last thoughts. 2 minutes, please.
I just think we should all definitely stay positive. And you definitely have a very positive show here and a very positive crew behind the scenes. So I just wanted to say thanks for having me on.
Oh, all right. That was easy enough.
Yes.
All right. Before we end with Karen here, we're going to do some final parting, some basically housekeeping. You guys know that my Thursday show is going to be a little short this year. It's not going to be 4 hours. It's going to be 3 hours because I have I have to go to a blood work seminar in the morning that's at like 8 in the morning or something. These darn continuing ed classes that I've ignored as long as I possibly can that I have to do.
I know all too well about it.
They squeeze that last penny out of you and get you up early in the morning. So I'm not going to be up really late on Thursday. The show will go 3 hours. It is going to be a really interesting one. It's Shayla, which is, I have a hard time with that name, but hopefully I got that right. Shayla is coming from the Ubuntu Society to come talk about a society without money. A lot of people feel that money was introduced to this society just to control us and divide us. So how does the society work without money? That's crazy, right? Well, we're going to find out about it because I think there's some really good things that they are talking about and they have right that I'm very interested in finding out. So please come Thursday. That should be one heck of a show. As usual, my panelist will come on with that too, and we'll dig into this idea deep. The other bit of housekeeping, again, I'd appreciate if you'd support the show by going through the Amazon link. If you're going to shop at Amazon anyway, it really helps me deal with the YouTube boycott. Since all of us creators are taking a hit right now, I ask you, if you do buy something this week, please go through my link here on Amazon. It doesn't cost you anything. It's a free way to help the show, and it really does help. So if you're thinking to yourself right now, man, it's time to garden, I need to buy some stuff, make sure you go through my link first. It really helps. Thank you.
Cool.
Let's go to, for the last wrap up, Karen, let's first talk about what's going on your channel and your group coming up, and then I'm going to let you have the final words to say whatever you want. So go ahead and plug your show because we didn't really do that in the beginning. I need to give you a chance to do that.
Well, the show is my way of teaching deliberate creation, you know, putting it out there. Like I started on radio, took it to YouTube. And so I'm interviewing people that, you know, have these experiences that teach us about how we are infinite possibility. That's what the show's about. And I have a little group, a webinar each month called the Inner Sanctum for people who want to. It's what you're doing. I charge for it. It's 22 Australian dollars a month, which works out about 15 American dollars, which is nothing. And I have deliberate creation teachings. You know, I teach deliberate creation on there and do more of what we're doing now, and also invite one of my radio guests for people to meet, and they get to talk like what you're doing, Tarrin. They get to meet them and talk to them and ask them questions, and yeah, and that's how I
feel free to invite me on. It sounds fun.
Yeah. So,
anytime you need
come on. I mean, the next person we're talking to is Frances, and she was the one that brought through the team book. So it's about your spiritual team. that was her mother, Teddy, or Crystal Key, who died in 2010. And she belongs to a mob in higher dimensions. The information that's come through in these books are amazing. So we're going to talk about vibrational spheres and the spiritual agreements that we have. They're the 2 topics. I sent a couple of chapters out to my little tribe to read from the books, and we're going to discuss those 2 topics in the next Inner Sanctum, which is this Friday in a couple of days. Friday in the States, Saturday in Australia. And yeah, and I do personal sessions with people who really want to know how to clean up their thoughts and be a better deliberate creator, and you know, on a spiritual journey. And also I'm putting together a book series because I'm here to really raise the consciousness of humanity. I do it in any way I can, and every single person on this call, everyone that's watching that, is a part of that too. They're here to raise the consciousness of humanity and help Gaia in her evolution process. So I'm putting together a book series, getting some of the people that are on my show to write their personal stories and put it in a book, because people still love their books. And so the first one we're dealing with is death, surviving death. So there's a few near-death experiences. There's some people that had, like, the Sandy Hook shootings. You know, there was Lewis, whose son was shot. There's a guy here whose daughter was killed in the Bali bombings, and their experiences coming out of that negative and back into the positive through that death experience. That was my experience too, with my mother dying of cancer. And the next one is about, we're going to go ETs, we're going to go my awakening journey. I'm going to put a whole series together of books with people's journeys, because I think that our story teaches others. So if anyone out there has a story, you know, put it out there, because when we share our stories, we all get to grow. All of us get to grow, and that's what I hope to do with the show, is to share people's stories. I share my story, they share their story, and other people listen and people grow. Like Gloria, one of the people in the Inner Sanctum, she completely woke up within a year, going from wanting to kill herself to like just in this ecstatic bliss all the time now. So it's really cool.
Very cool. I appreciate
and my
that.
website is just myname.com, karenswain.com. You can see a whole lot of stuff on.
Yeah, they can find everything at karenswain.com. Also, I also have a link to her YouTube too, if you want to go check out her guests and stories and shows. There's some really great stuff over there. I got sucked in and started watching like a whole afternoon of stuff. So well done on that. Your stuff's really interesting because they're cool topics. I dig it. So I want to let you guys know, if this is the first time you're here or you've forgotten, that this conversation doesn't stop. It continues over in our Discord chat room. You can meet some of the guests, talk to them, bat some stuff with us one-on-one. So if you want to keep going, it's like a bar. You can't stay here, but you don't have to quit drinking, right? Or do I have that backwards?
I was singing that last time we were.
Yeah,
you gotta go home, but you can't.
You gotta go home, but you can't stay here.
You gotta go.
And I used to bartend. I can't believe I
Let's-
forgot that. Okay. Yeah, I totally missed it.
You have to leave, but you can't stay here, or something.
Right.
I can't remember what it is.
You'll see the Discord link in the chat right now appearing. That thing self-destructs in about a half hour, so you get a half hour to jump in and come hang out and talk with us. We have some serious night owls, and we have a great community over there that they do talk about other stuff besides the Mandela effect. You can come in there and talk about any of these topics, and people will be happy to talk about it. But they're very positive, and we keep that. We're very protective on keeping a very positive vibe in there. We pretty much ask anyone to leave that's a Debbie Downer. So we only want the positive patties, and we're very protective of that. So please come over and hang out there. Also, thank you so much for joining me on a Tuesday night. Karen, we're going to have to bring you back.
I want to say one more thing.
Yeah, jump on.
I want to say, I forgot to mention Soul Traveller Radio. So Soul Traveller Radio is a radio station that I'm involved in facilitating, which is all conscious music. It streams online. Just go to soultravellerradio.net or soultravellerradio.com. And it is all positive, conscious music. So I really believe that music is such a huge part of our society, and that's what really shifts consciousness. And so Soul Traveller Radio, and that my podcast is on Soul Traveller Radio as well. So it's another thing I'm involved in.
Well, yeah, go ahead and talk about that, because we have in the Discord room there is a music robot that plays stuff like this for people that want. So maybe we could stream that over there one night to check out what your.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, if you guys.
That would be cool. I would be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, could you guys, Karen, could you repeat how they would pull that up? Can they pull it up I don't know how the robot works. Can we put a station on, or does it just pull YouTube videos?
I think we can feed in. I think we can. We'll try.
Okay.
So Soul Traveler Radio is also on your app. It looks like this. It's basically an Om sign with headphones on it. Is it coming up?
No,
It's not coming up.
Yeah.
it did at first, but then it popped away.
And so it plays like a whole different genre of music. Like there's kirtan, mantra music, there's hip hop, there's rock, there's a bit of Christian stuff in there too. Like, you know, let's not get all music that is uplifting and positive and virtual. And so like one of my favorite artists is MC Yogi, who's a conscious hip hop artist. He's just like, only love is real, only love is real. It's fantastic. I love it. And then and like Tina Malia, you know, she does all that sort of kirtan, the Gayatri mantra, and she does like folky, like pop music. And there's just so many incredible, amazing conscious teachers out there that are teaching through their music. And I really love it, and I support them. And I I'll be interviewing a couple of them coming up on the show.
Well,
a guy called Elijah Ray, amazing.
We dig all that. If you ever want to set up in Discord one night and just host a music party, man, we'll come in and talk to you and listen to your, you know, who you're plugging, and I'd be happy to even have if you want to bring some musicians on the air. I know that's right up Unirock's stream. He'd probably interview some cool musicians for sure.
Yeah.
He said rock. I heard that, Doc.
Yeah,
he did say rock.
So I would love this. And obviously this invite goes out to you too, Karen. You can come over to the Discord chat tonight and hang out with us if you got a few minutes to kill. And,
you have to show me how to get on it. I don't know how to get on it. The Discord.
I'll send you a link, and all you have to do is follow the link in, and I'll walk you through. It's not as hard as it sounds at all. Oh, I did forget. I need to be very grateful and say thank you for the donations that came through on the chat tonight. Some reason Karen donated to me twice, and Karen, you always donate every week. Wow. So big love to you. Thank you for that. And I don't know what made you do twice. Some reason Burma gave me money, and you're a guest on the show. You don't need to do that when you're a guest. Burma,
You said you needed the lights on and the cat fed. I just wanted to support you.
Cat eats me in the house.
I love your cat, man. It looks like my mom and dad's old cat. We're kindred spirits.
He's part of this show, but he is out catting around tonight. And Joy, thank you so much, Joy.
Karen, show me how to do that. I want to make a donation too, because I think what you're doing is awesome.
Thank you so much. Basically, all right, here's the way it works, Karen. When you live stream, you will see if you go to the chat, you remember the YouTube where like people are chatting right now?
Yeah.
If you look at that, at the very bottom, there's a little money sign. If you click that, you can actually make a donation to anybody that is streaming that you like. I don't bring it up that much because a lot of my people know about it, but if you've never known that, you can enable that in your own chat. I think you have to be over 1,000 subscribers before it's an active. Yeah, once you get to 1,000 subscribers, you can put that on, and then what happens is when people donate, you'll see that right now Karen's message is stuck to the top. You'll see this like orange bar up there. When people donate, you can read her message to see what she said. And the way YouTube works is if you donate under $5, it doesn't stick the message, but after $5, it sticks a message for like 5 minutes. $10 is something like 20 minutes. $20 is something like a half hour. $100 stays up for like 5 hours. I mean, it sticks. The more you give, the longer your message sticks up there. So people just like kind of, you know, they dig the live acknowledgement. They enjoy seeing you get the donation live, and like you're like, oh my God, thank you, Karen, so much. You know, and I think it's a great way to interact. You know, what happened was there was all these gamers doing it over at Twitch. And YouTube really just came along with this function like a month and a half ago or something, because so many people were complaining, why can't we do this on YouTube? And so now it's here, and it's been wonderful. It's a great way to interact, and I really appreciate the donations. They do keep the show running, and they keep the difference from like YouTube. A lot of us creators took a huge hit with this boycott, and it's definitely been helping keep us alive through this until the money returns. So I much appreciate that, and Amazon really helps too. So shop through Amazon. Come through my link first. Don't go to Amazon and then come to my link and go back to Amazon. It doesn't work like that. Come through Amazon, through my link, and then shop around. It'll take you like one of my books. Don't worry about buying the book. Just go shop. That's it. All right. Wow. How did we get off on that? Yeah. So Karen, if you see that, feel free. And
I can't see it, but this is fascinating because maybe I can do that instead of being the subscription.
Yeah, it's dependent also on countries. Not every country can donate, so I might.
Maybe
I don't know if Australia can or not.
I don't see it anywhere.
I don't know. Maybe they just don't like South Africans. I'm not sure what YouTube's deal is. You should talk to them. Just be like,
why can't I donate money? My money's just as good as yours.
They expect you to
You
donate
need to manifest that.
Cougar Rands.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know many South African jokes. All I got is jokes about Cougar Rands and the Springboks. That's it. See, at least she got it. All right. Anyway, I don't know how this show always drags on for another 20 minutes. We're always like, okay, see, and then there's a question, and we just keep going.
We have fun.
I had one show that went an hour and a half extra because it just wouldn't stop. People were like, one more thing. So anyway, head over to Discord. I really appreciate it, and lots of love. Thanks for all the support, guys. I'll see you over there. Make sure you tune in for my Thursday show. Ubuntu should be one heck of a show. I guarantee it. And then next Thursday, I have a very special mystery guest. Oh, you'll have to wait. So we'll see you guys then. All right. There's a Discord link going out one more time. Everybody, so be nice.
Thanks, Doc. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Doc.
Thanks, Merry Christmas. Bye.
Bye. Be nice. Support each other. Go be nice to your cat. That's it. You know how it is. You can say it with me, Burma.
That's
be nice
right.
to your cat. All right. Love y'all.
Bye.
Love you, buddy.